Yeah, it takes a while for the live stream to go up. And another thing I can do too is open the announcement page that I had. Yeah, it takes a while for the live stream to go up. And another thing I can do too is open the announcement page that I had. Okay, and I'm also going to put down lower my speaker because you just give me a signal. Are you hearing me? You're hearing me loud and clear? Okay, because I took off my volume because otherwise there would be an echo on YouTube and we don't want that. All right, so everybody looks great on YouTube now. I'm going to put welcome. Welcome to World Book and Copywriting. I'm going to open the announcement. Okay, so I'll leave this on YouTube page until we're ready to start. Now, participants, you could take off your camera for 2 minutes if you need to get a drink of water or something and then come back. Well, it's so good that everyone can join me today. Wonderful. I feel privileged to have such a great showing. Really, really happy. And, oh, Jameel, congratulations on your new book launch coming up. I'm seeing all the advertising for it. So
thank you so much.
That's amazing.
Thank you. Thank you.
So we have 2 minutes till starting time. 2 minutes to go. All right, 2 minutes to go. Is Coryn here? Okay, I think we lost Coryn. So we will start without. Or whenever she comes in. That's okay. Okay, I'm going to start now because by the time there's a delay and it goes to YouTube, you know, it might be a minute or two. So, and you know what? I'll give latecomers a chance to join us. So it's 12 o'clock my time. Welcome, welcome everybody to World Book and Copyright Day. Welcome to the viewers and welcome to my esteemed authors from 6 different countries. I'm so happy you all could be here on this World Book and Copyright Day. My name is Jennylynd James, and I'm an artist and author based in Toronto, Canada. For this World Book and Copyright Day, I'm so happy to have these authors from international authors from several different countries. So let me introduce them. We have Coryn Anaya Clarke from Trinidad and Tobago, Akosua Dardane Edwards, also from Trinidad, Patrick Graham from Liverpool in the UK. Hi, Patrick. We have Nutendi Navitate from Nairobi, Kenya. Lucy Robson, based in Cyprus at the moment. And we have Dion Irving, who's based in Georgia. Jameel Davis in Cleveland, Ohio. So thank you for joining me today. What I'll do is tell the viewers a little bit about my publications. My journey as a writer started back in 2013 when I decided to write about my life in the Republic of Ireland as a new immigrant. So this was my first memoir, Escape from Ireland. Then the writing bug hit me and I wrote another memoir, Goodbye Frying Pan, Hello Fire, which describes my life as a newcomer to Toronto, where I live now. And another memoir, Red Car, Long Legs, Adventures in California and Beyond. I lived in California for 6 years, working in the fresh produce industry and had so many adventures, I just had to write about them. Drive, a Trini expat comes home. So I'm from Trinidad and Tobago originally, and this book talks about going back to my country of birth on vacation, feeling like a stranger, like a tourist. It's all in the book. Another memoir, Where Are My Car Keys, describes my mother's journey with Alzheimer's disease. And for me, writing that book was a form of healing. The children's companion book, Is That My Granny? Talks about the same thing, my mother's journey with Alzheimer's disease. And it was my first children's book, and I did the illustrations. My first attempt at writing a novel, Mrs. Somebody, What She Did for That Ring. So that was my first novel. And it's a joy to write. Now I'm going to talk to all my writers here today and ask them to tell me a little bit about their writing, perhaps do a reading, and you'll see, you know, what motivates you as a writer. So first up, I will ask Akosua Dardane Edwards to introduce herself and tell us about her writing. Akosua?
Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for having me among all of these esteemed authors.
Akosua, please turn up your volume. I'm not hearing you. So Akosua is an enabling enterprise, gender, and entrepreneurship specialist based in Port of Spain, Trinidad.
Are you hearing me? Are you hearing me now?
Okay, go ahead.
So starting over, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for having me again amongst all of these esteemed authors from around the world. You know, it's funny that calling myself an author has always been a little bit strange because my background is in accounting. And basically, I started doing accounting. I chose that as a career because I wanted a safe life. I wanted to have a life where I could purchase material things. And I thought that anything else apart from a normal career would have me not being well off. And we had this saying in Trinidad that I would be scrunting if I pursue any arts or any writing or anything like that. So I pursued accounting and I became an accountant. And I lived in London for a long time, London and Manchester, because that's where great accountants come from. That's what we were told. And my goal and plan was to become a CEO and a finance manager. And I was going well along that route and still feeling like a hole in me, something was missing. And I would run away and volunteer with women, run away from work and volunteer with women who were placed in London as, they call them refugees, but displaced women. And I got fired. I got fired from my job. And when I got fired, I felt as if I was a failure. So I ran away again. And I moved to Uganda and different parts of East Africa. And there I started doing a journal because I was working with 901 women in a village close to the border of South Sudan. And every day I would write in my journal, what did I learn today? What did I learn today? And that journal became my first book called What Did I Learn Today? Lessons on the Journey to Unconditional Self-Love. And that started the journey for me in writing. So now I'm 4 books in, and you see, I still have the challenge of being called an author because it's, most of the books relate to my journeys throughout the world. And so from Uganda, I did some work in South Africa, in Kenya, in different places. I came back home because I really felt that I had something to contribute to Trinidad and Tobago. And here I am. This month, actually last month, I launched my latest book called Now What? Because now I'm back home, COVID has hit, and now what? And I just want to say that don't let the whispers and the talk of other people guide you or push you into doing things that would remain safe, because even in that safe space, you have to take risks. For me, I was fired. I felt I was failing. I felt I was losing my mind, and writing those books helped me. And I can say it also helped others because I put everything that I never told anyone in those books. And people say, when they read the books, they were like, oh my God, we didn't know this was going on. What is happening? We didn't know. You just look quite normal on the outside. And writing helped me to release so much. So I want to say that I have a tremendous respect for anyone who has decided to take the journey to do something creative and continue to do that. And thank you again for this opportunity to share my story. And I look forward to hearing all of your stories.
Well, thank you, Akosua. Thank you so much. We appreciate your presentation. And now I would like to introduce Patrick Graham, who's an author at Blackout Productions, and Patrick is based in Liverpool, UK. So Patrick, please unmute yourself.
Yeah. Good afternoon, Jenny, in Toronto, and for all those on the US side as well, good afternoon. It's more just the early evening here. It's just after 5 p.m. So it is a pleasure to join all you writers from various parts of the world. And as Jenny said, my name's Patrick. I'm born and raised in Liverpool in England, UK. My parents were from Jamaica originally, came here in the 60s, so I'm first generation born in the UK. And when I say I've been writing for a while, I would say I've been writing for a number of years, but it's centered largely around writing poetry and doing workshops in schools, getting youngsters to write poetry. And when I say poetry, the poetry that I liked was poetry that reflected my life experiences, or which I felt in some ways the children could relate to them. That was the type of poetry that I would take into schools and get them to write about, because local poets who I'd heard, one guy in particular called Levi Tafari, who I've known all my life, he used to write poetry, or still does write poetry rather, and that inspired me to write, because I thought, well, wow, what he's talking about, that's happened to me, or I've experienced that, or I know exactly what he's talking about. I can understand and relate to that. So that's what got me writing. And a lot of my writing centered around poetry as such. Over the last, over a number of years, I've tried my hand at writing like short script plays. I've, done some community theatre and so forth. And it wasn't until maybe the last year, 2 years ago, someone said, have you ever had anything published? And I looked at them strangely, as if to say, me published? No. You know what I mean? And like we've just heard from Akosua about, being called an author, I just thought that's a strange name. But well, I've never really published anything. Can I really call myself a writer, an author? Because even though I do write, and people say, well, yes, of course you can. So a number of years ago, and I'm talking maybe 15 years ago, I wrote a radio play originally about 3 little Jamaican children. And nothing had come of it, because in Liverpool, it was difficult to get somebody to do the accents of 3 Jamaican children. So it just never materialized. So years later, I decided to turn it into a book. And I eventually done that after, 5 or 6 years. And again, I'd done nothing with it. And then about 8 years later, I decided to play around with it a bit more, developed it. And then it wasn't until COVID set in and lockdown, and that really reinvented myself as a writer who's going to now write stories as well. So I wrote the book, which is called, I hope you can all see that there, The 3 Little Jamaicans English Adventure. And what I got the inspiration from, that book is, obviously if you're in Liverpool, you could get it from me direct, but it's available on Amazon mainly, and a local bookstore in Liverpool, and 1 or 2 local shops. But the 3 Little Jamaicans inspiration, I'm one of 7 children. I was born in the UK. My 3 elder siblings, my brother and 2 sisters, were born in Jamaica, and they came here as 3 little Jamaicans, the ages of 6, 4, and 2. The characters in the story are a little older, where the boy is 7. The main character is called Lenky, who's 7, and he's got 2 twin sisters, Blossom and Winsome. Here's the synopsis of the book. It says, while I was in England with my 9-year-old twin sisters, Blossom and Winsome, we go on an adventure while our father is working. My name is Lenky. I'm 7 years old, and I dream of going home to Linstead in Jamaica. But first, I must escape from pirates. And like that opens up a lot of the imagination as to what this could be about. And imagination is one thing, because Lenky, he narrates the whole story, the 7-year-old. And it's a story of sibling rivalry. There's a little bit of mystery in there, a bit of fun, and he narrates the story, and he tells his story from his perspective whilst they're in England. It all takes place over just one afternoon. They go on this little adventure, but he's longing to get back to Jamaica. And without giving too much away, the story drifts between England and Jamaica, and Lenky uses his imagination to escape things when he gets himself into trouble. Well, hopefully people can pick up the book. It's available on Amazon, and thank you.
Okay, well, thank you so much, Patrick. Wonderful story. We really appreciate it, and I hope viewers will get a copy of your book. Now, I'd like to introduce Nutendi Navitate. He goes by the title Nutendi Writes, and Nutendi is based in Nairobi, Kenya. He's a writer, poet, and comic book producer. Hello, Nutendi.
Hey everyone, how's everyone doing? Thank you, Jenny, for putting this together, and obviously thank you to everyone else for showing up and being able to interact with you guys. So as a writer, I always try and find the untold story and then share a bunch of my perspectives with the different travels and different places I've lived in, and then just try to find what people are missing in terms of what the audience is lacking and try and share different lessons in anything I create. So I do write mostly fiction, but it's fiction with an agenda. Yeah. So my current baby, if I can call it that, is Shadow Walkers. So it's a book about African gods, and basically the African gods are in the middle of a civil war. And through the civil war, you learn about different African kingdoms, different cultural deities, and the impact they've had throughout the world. So that's the book in the summary. I will just read the introduction, or the preface rather, just to give a better idea. So Shadow Walkers is a literary work of mythology and fantasy mixed with science fiction, and a generous dose of historical and cultural representations. It is inspired predominantly by African legends and cultural mythology, as well as featuring underrepresented Asian, European, and indigenous North American and South American cultures as well. The subtitle, The Glory of Kings, comes from Kebra Nagas, which is an Ethiopian term meaning the glory of kings, that comes from the Ethiopian Solomon line of kings. So collectively, the good gods, quote unquote, are the Azuni, and the villains in this story are the Okozuni. So like humans, they have fought and continue to fight battles over powers and resources, and one in particular is the most coveted. So as man was formed of earth, rock, and soil, they've been formed from the stars, and stars are what fuel their existence. So they get all these unique properties from different stars. So in the first story, one of their old enemies returns, who was formerly an Azuni himself, but he's betrayed and he's come to seek revenge. And you learn the ins and outs of their society. Yeah. That's it in a nutshell.
Thank you. So what are the projects you have coming up now, Nutendi?
So I have shifted over to, and this will tie into one of the topics about whether people like print and visual media. I've switched over to writing for film as well. So I have a couple of short films coming out. I do already have one on YouTube called The Better Marriage Doctors.
What's the name? Please repeat.
Sorry, the film I have out at the moment is called The Better Marriage Doctors. The main character of the story is a battered wife. In some African societies, the boy child is favored over the girl child.
Yes.
And so she's having a hard time because she's only produced girl children. So she ends up going to women witch doctors to find a solution. And the women witch doctors come and sort out the husband. So it turns into a horror story at the end.
Okay, okay. Well, thank you so much. It sounds quite interesting. And you put the link so that I can share it on the video. Put the link in the chat box. Thank you so much, Nutendi, for your presentation. Now, we would like to speak to Lucy Robson. So Lucy is a British-Canadian writer and journalist, and she's now based in Cyprus. So Lucy, welcome, welcome. And we'd like to hear your presentation. Thanks for being here.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Jennylynd. I'm going to present this book, 15 Years in Aphrodite's Fishbowl. It's a bit hard to see it. I lived in Cyprus for about 15 years, and when I was there, I was a journalist. And for one of the outfits I worked for, I had to write a column every week, an opinion piece. And over several years, I must have written about 500 of these. So I took that body of work and I took 100 and I put it into this anthology as a sort of book of memories of my time in Cyprus, but also a book of an overview of life in Cyprus. So I'm going to read a column from that to give a taste. And before I do, it's worth noting for anybody who doesn't know, Cyprus is a very beautiful ancient island, but it also has some political problems. It's divided in two by something called the Green Line. North of the Green Line is the Turkish Cypriot community. South of the Green Line is the Greek Cypriot community. This has been the situation for 50 years. I won't get into the politics, but they're still trying to find a solution. And I lived on the Greek Cypriot side. So this is called Christos and Nesti. I hope it paints a picture. One of my good friends, Angelos, is a refugee from the Kyrenia area. Like many people from both sides of the Green Line, he thinks about going back to his village, renamed and repopulated since the 1974 Turkish invasion. But although he's nearly talked himself into it, he just can't bring himself to show his passport at the Green Line to go to his home. By and by, I've heard quite a lot about his home through stories he's told me, free from sentimentality or bitterness. The simplicity and vividness of his tales have enchanted me. So I offered to go to his hillside village with my camera to be his eyes, and Angelos agreed. I don't think you'll find it though, he said. It's up in the hills, and I don't even know what it's called now. Still, he drew me a rough map on a sheet of paper, and I decided to go at Easter when I had time off. Traveling through and beyond the occupied part of Nicosia, I religiously clocked the landmarks Angelos had drawn because the Turkish names on signposts meant nothing to me. Following the map, I eventually headed off the main stretch up a long, long road filled with crater-like potholes. I worried for the undercarriage of my car, but there was a village nestled on the hillside, so I kept going. When I arrived, dusk was approaching, so I got busy with my camera. It was cold, the air smelled of charcoal, and there was nobody around. I had no way of knowing if it was Angelos's village or not. If it was, according to his map, this little orchard was where he'd nicked fruit from his neighbors. That cliff face was where he'd hunted pigeons with his brother. There was the ancient freshwater spring, and here was his church, majestically Byzantine. Then it struck me. It was Holy Saturday, one of the most sacred days in the Orthodox Christian calendar. While churches a few kilometers away on the other side of the Green Line were being prepared for the important evening service, bringing in the words Christos and Nesti, or Christ has arisen, this one stood morose and silent. The other churches would soon fill with families dressed in their best and holding candles. Fireworks would festoon them at midnight. But this church would stand darkened, empty, and uncherished. It hadn't hosted an Easter celebration for 3.5 decades, and I just chanced to be there to witness it. I returned home, praying I had the right village caught on my camera. As soon as I showed it to Angelos, he shyly and hungrily studied the footage and confirmed that, indeed, it was his home. Beneath all the overtures on the political stage, I'm often reminded of the silent and tragic human story behind Cyprus's national problem. Thousands of people have had no choice but to accommodate such deep loss into their lives. I don't think there are words to describe how they've managed to do this. And that was written in April 2009. Now, anything anybody wants to know about my book is on my website. The address is lucyrobsonco.wordpress.com. And there's also a short book presentation of 5 or 6 columns to give an idea of what's within the pages of the book. And it's worth noting, Lucy is spelled L-U-C-I-E. Thank you so much, Jennylynd.
Thank you so much, Lucy, for that short glimpse of Cyprus. Now I'm tempted to learn more, and I hope the viewers will get your book. Now let's go on to our next guest, Dion Irving. And Dr. Dion Irving is to be a professor at Notre Dame University. She is currently based in Georgia. Welcome, Dion.
Thank you so much for having me. Wonderful to be here with everybody from all different parts of the world. So I am a professor right now at the University of West Georgia, but will be starting as a professor of creative writing at the University of Notre Dame in the fall with a joint appointment in a new institute on race and resilience at Notre Dame. So I'm really excited about doing that work because it dovetails really strongly with the work that I do as a creative writer. I write both fiction and nonfiction. And my work's really strongly shaped by the specters of colonialism and empire and slavery. And I would say these are kind of the defining things that come up in my work. So I live in the US, but I am originally from Toronto and my parents are Jamaican. And so, you know, all of those things have been really key in terms of thinking about the work that I do in terms of trying to tell the stories and lived experiences of lots of different kinds of people and how those experiences are influenced both directly and indirectly by systems of power. So my first novel's coming out this fall, in August actually. It's called Quint, and it is historical fiction. It's based on the real life story of the Dion quintuplets who were born in Canada during the 1930s and who the Canadian government removed from their parents' home and built a theme park around them in Northern Ontario. And so that's the historical basis for my novel. That really, to me, indicated again this idea of like empire. The quintuplets actually became the legal guardians of King George. And so that, you know, it's an interesting way of thinking about the ways in which all of those facets of empire really can have impact on a person's day-to-day life. So I thought I'd just read a short excerpt from the novel. This is just from the first chapter. When she started bleeding, she thought for certain she'd lost the child. The blood was bright red, the kind the midwife had warned her about, the kind that meant surely this child, like the others before it, had died inside her. Again, her body had failed her, had shown her that she wasn't really a woman. In the month or so, he would climb on top of her and do it again, and she would get pregnant again, and there would be this baby, no baby ritual again. At least that's how it's been before. She looked to the picture of the Virgin on the wall and was reminded of how she had failed her time and time again. So she was surprised an hour later when, after she'd hoisted her mass into the kitchen for water, she felt that flutter, the hint of an elbow or a knee, she couldn't be sure, pressing against her from the inside, that thing that told her that this was life. She looked again to the picture of the Virgin Mary hanging over the bed. She could see her from the sink, like the Virgin was calling to her, like she was beckoning her, and she floated, wet hands, back onto the bed where she spent most of her days. The next thing she remembered, he was shaking her, and when she opened her eyes and saw him, her husband was standing there. It was like she'd been waiting for him all her life, or at least waiting for someone like him. "Are you all right?" he kept saying, and then finally, "Answer me." "Yes," she said, of course. But she couldn't get up, couldn't sit up in the bed. She remembered the blood and her hands flew between her legs, and she drew that hand to her face to inspect it for a hint of red, but there was none. "What is it?" he asked, the hard edge in his voice gone. He sat at the end of the bed, smoking a cigarette and watching her. "There was blood today, earlier, but I think I felt the baby move after that." He stared at her with large, unblinking eyes, and she couldn't tell what he was thinking or what he understood. Thank you.
Well, thank you. That's quite a moving presentation. And Quint, please tell us again when the book will be available.
Quint, yeah, August 4th, and it's available from 713 Books. And I have another short story collection that's coming out in November 22 called Islands, that's going to come out from Catapult Press. That's a series of short stories dealing with the kind of Jamaican diasporic experience. It has stories set in London and Panama and Canada. And so it really speaks to this idea of Jamaicans all over the world.
Okay, well, thank you so much, Dion. Thank you for your presentation. Sincerely appreciate it. Now I see Coryn and Anaya. Clarke is there. Coryn, are you ready to do your presentation?
Yes, I am.
Yes, well, good day, Coryn. Please tell everyone about yourself and about your books.
I'm actually at the Minister of Education's office right now.
Right, so you're 5 years old?
My name is Coryn Anaya Clarke, and I am 5 years old. And I wrote 2 books.
Uh-huh. So please show us your books.
I don't have the second one right now, but I can show you the first one.
Yes, show us. Tell us about it.
Okay, so it's about me and my family doing my talents and all the fun things we do together, like yoga, ballet, music, baking, swimming, painting, and even watching Bible stories on Saturdays.
Oh, very good. Do you want to read a little bit for us from your book? And what is the name of the book?
Chronicles of Coryn, 7 Days of Fun. And
7 Days of Fun.
I actually want to read my favorite page from this book.
Okay. So Coryn is our youngest writer, and she's a very good reader too. Excellent reader.
Okay, so today is Friday. That's true, actually. Today is Friday.
Yes.
Today is Friday. On Friday.
Hold your phone, see.
Today is Friday. On Fridays, I get creative. Today, I am painting a flower garden. Sunflowers are my favorite. I love them because they're beautiful, yellow, and bright. What's your favorite flower?
Yay! So that's great for Friday. Very good, Coryn. And tell
what's
me
your
about
favorite flower?
Huh?
What's your favorite flower?
My favorite flower is probably a purple orchid.
Okay.
Yes. And what other books have you written? Tell us.
It's Chronicles of Coryn, Adventures in St. Kitts and Nevis.
Adventures in St. Kitts and Nevis. So who do you know over there?
So I know some of my relatives.
Oh.
Mama Jen, Papito, Auntie Joyce, Auntie Nola.
Okay, so lots of relatives, and you went to visit and you wrote a book about it. And where can people find your books?
You can find it on Amazon, and you can also find it at paper-based bookshop in a fancy hotel.
So your books are on Amazon, and tell us again, where else?
And you can find it at paper-based bookshop, and you can find it in paper, and you can get it on Amazon.
On Amazon and paper-based bookshop in Port of Spain, Trinidad. Right? Well, thank you so much, Coryn. We're so happy you can participate today. Very happy to see you. Thank you, Coryn. Okay, so now you can mute your microphone and we go on to our next speaker, Jameel Davis. Jameel is Cleveland's own international speaker and author, Mr. Cultivating Minds. Thank you so much for joining us today, Jameel.
Thank you for having me. Hello, world. Hello, everybody. All my previous presenters, you all did an amazing job. I want to thank you for sharing your work. We'd love to connect with you all in the future sometime. Maybe we can collaborate on a big project together, but this is a start here. So I really love it. So like you all say, the title of an author, it really doesn't stick to me either. I do so many different things. It's just, that's what most people know me for, is writing. And I write pretty much just to express myself. So my first book that I wrote is How Success Became My Focus. And the reason why I wrote it is because I'm big on legacy and documentation. And before I started writing that book, I had asked myself, well, if I died today, who would live to tell my story, and would they tell it correctly? So at that point, I knew, can nobody tell my story better than I could? So I decided to write my success story, why I chose to navigate the successful path instead of going down the path of destruction, like being a product of my environment, and which I come from, which is impoverished communities plagued by high violence and high crime here in Cleveland, Ohio. So I decided to share my story of how I made it out of unfortunate circumstances to become a successful educated college student, you know? And then moving forward, I went on to write Cultivating Minds to Own Thyself, which is birthed with the intentions of helping men and women to discover their purpose and to take ownership of their lives without using society standards. So after writing How Success Became My Focus, I went on this journey of just putting myself first, because society tells us to put everybody else before us and take care of ourselves last. And when we take care of ourselves last, we would never really get to us. So I went on this journey when I turned off the television, radio, music, stopped studying other different people, and started focusing on myself and became who I needed to be for me. And that this book teaches people how to put themselves first. Moving forward, I went ahead and wrote In Between These Sheets. Now, a lot of people may think In Between These Sheets is a book of erotica or whatever, but really is a metaphor for in between these sheets of these pages.
Oh,
and
okay.
It's a collection of poetry, short stories, inspirational messages that will affect and appeal to you in a personal and emotional way. So a lot of times people think that, you know, we have to get everything that we need in a nutshell in order to be great. No, we learn from many different aspects in life and many different intervals. So this book is compact with so many different things that can help aid you onto the life that you want to live in life. So I decided to put all my poems, my thoughts, and my collections of everything into one book in a chronological order where it makes sense. So it's in between these sheets. My fourth book is getting ready to release May 25th. And then the book launches June 25th here in Cleveland at the Marriott Hotel. And this is Completely Naked. Now, Completely Naked is a look at people of color and our unnatural and broken state, in which our brokenness affects our relationships with others and affects our ability to live dignified and wealthy lives. So it's also a book at me ripping off years of duct tape that was suffocating my emotions, my pain, my feelings, and everything that society told me to keep stomaching. And it shares what I went through during those times when I was forced to become mute. So Completely Naked is going to be on audiobook. It's going to be paperback, hardback, all many different platforms. Right now it's available for pre-order on all major book retailer sites, Barnes & Noble, Walmart, Target, all of those things. And I recently just had an audiobook listening party experience at the movie theater here. So I will be doing it again in Atlanta, Georgia in July. So I think I'm going to read something from Completely Naked because it's getting ready to come out. And right now, it's highly anticipated. People enjoy it. It's so very heavy. Oh, sorry.
Yes, so we
okay.
don't have a lot of time, but I will invite you back another day when we continue this series. This is just the start, I'm thinking.
Oh, it's okay.
Everybody, I will invite you back so that we can have an in-depth analysis of your books. If that's okay with you all, I want to continue what we started today. So thank you, Jameel, for your exciting presentation. Congratulations on all your publications. Just want to throw out one or two questions now to the group. So first question, do you think people are reading less or the same during the advent of social media? Okay, so Dion, would you like to answer that?
I think people are reading more, actually. I think that one of the things that we forget too is that we are at a really important moment historically, right, where we have the most literate population on the planet than ever before in human history. Okay. We also worry too, I think, sometimes about technology as taking away from reading, but you have to be able to read to interact with any kind of contemporary technology. And so I think that has led people to stories. And I also think we actually have kind of a biological desire for stories, right? Both to understand the lived experiences of other people. It's how we make sense of the world, right? Everything includes narrative in some way, shape, or form, you know. That's why, you know, things like religious texts survive the space of time, right? Is that they are about narrative and about story. So I think there is something biological in us that wants story. And I think that dovetails really nicely with this sort of monumental amount of literacy that we have on the planet. And so I think while we might bemoan sort of the lack of sales of books. We also have to remember there's more books being published now than have ever been published.
Oh, right. Statistically.
So, yeah, and so that we forget that those things are actually really important in terms of thinking about literacy.
Okay, thank you so much. So that's a lot of food for thought right there. And then what about in terms of hard copy books and ebooks? Are hard copy books, like physical books, still relevant? Who would like to answer that? Okay, Nutendi, yes. What do you think?
Being in the digital age, obviously ebooks make things more accessible, but with the experiences I've had being an independent writer and interacting with people approach books like a art collection. So people are really avid about books will go and buy the physical book. I myself have struggled to read ebooks. It just doesn't feel the same. It also allows you to unplug if you're reading a physical book. Where it comes, I think where ebooks come in more so is in terms of microblogging and blog posts, very, very small publications. But I still feel that physical books can't be done away with.
Yes. Yeah, I agree with you. I like to feel the book, hold the book, put a bookmark. I'm still traditional that way. So I agree. Physical books are here to stay. All right. Now, another question that I think boggles the mind of all writers and authors. How can you reach an audience with your book? How can you reach people? So I think, Jameel, maybe you can take us through that journey.
Awesome. All right. So the first thing I would recommend is compiling a mailing list and sending out spoilers. The reason why I say sending out spoilers is because you can see who's interested in your writing style. And if you send out those spoilers, you have somebody who buy into your work, then you can outsource them to promote your book to their audience as well.
Okay.
So that's the first step of, sending out spoilers before the release. The next thing is creativity and confidence and having fun. And people like bright colors. They like fun events. They like food. They like all these different things. They love freebies. They love giveaways. There's so many different things that you do to attract your audience. Give them an experience that they have never seen before and never been a part of. Be creative. You can use like a platform that's called Canva. We can create free flyers and things like that.
Canva. Okay.
Yeah, canva.com. But the main thing is just confidence, having fun, speaking to people on the airplane next to you, speaking to people on the train ride, in a lobby, in an elevator. You never know who's interested into what and who's connected with who. And use those people to help pitch your work. And then on social media ads is a great way to reach your audience. If you change your personal account to a business account, you can select how much money you want to put on the advertisement and click automatic. And Instagram and Facebook will automatically target readers or people of interest in your audience. That's another way to do it. Amazon has good advertisement as well, that you can pay for that. And again, it's just having fun in the process and sending out those spoilers, giveaways. Those are all good ways to, reach your audience. And free events, live events, paid events, whatever, just where people are always looking to have some sort of fun. So if you're going to tie an event or a theme to your book and you bring it alive and have people part of it, that's another way to reach your audience. And again, like I said before, documentation is the key. Pictures, videos, writing, blogs, reviews, all that is how you can do it. So
now, how would you what would you recommend to the authors here? They have their books, and would there be like an ideal time to start promoting the book? What do you think about
as far as me, I always recommend pre-marketing. So if, like, for example, we'll Completely Naked, I've been marketing that book for almost 2 years now and haven't even came out. So just doing many different creative ways. So pre-marketing is good because you building up the anticipation for the book. So some people is not as patient as me. We get excited about our project. We want to release it immediately.
That's me.
Same here for me as well. And patience is like, it's kind of hard for a lot of us. So I always recommend at least a year, or during your writing process, when you decide to say, hey, I'm about to write a book, start marketing, start promoting it, create a hashtag, and share it with your audience before it's even published. Because now what it does is it holds you accountable.
Okay.
So it not only does it hold you accountable, but it motivates you more to finish the product. So in the beginning process, if I got this idea, I want to write this book, I have my title. Let me go ahead and secure my title and start promoting it that I am writing a book. Because now we start.
Else like to chime in? Somebody else?
Oh, go ahead. So,
any other author? What do you think of what he said? Dion, I know you have your book coming out in August. What do you think about his idea of promoting a year in advance?
Yeah, I love that idea. I have to sort of do that too on my publisher's schedule. So like, last week, I think it was last week or the week before, they just released the cover. And so that's only a few months. So I don't have as much lead time, but I also don't have as much control over.
You have a traditional publisher.
Yeah. And so, that I think binds you. And then I think that I know a lot of people do publicists, like hire independent publicists as a way as well of marketing the book. But I think those also can get pretty expensive.
Yes, so Jameel is his own publicist.
Yeah.
Now, Akosua, tell me what you've done to promote your book.
Yeah, so my book, that came out last month.
Yes.
And I wish I spoke to Jameel earlier.
Exactly.
But, I started marketing this book maybe in December, so it was a few months. But I do see the value of promoting it in advance because it builds the momentum, and people are looking forward for when it's going to come out. And the other thing that I felt that really worked was reading excerpts from it and filming it and putting it on social media. And creating the hashtag. So the people who knew about the other books, because it's almost like a trilogy, you were looking forward to it, but you can read it independently. And I think just building up the hype through different events. What I've done, there's a minibus, we call it a maxi taxi in Trinidad, where you jump in the minibus, and behind each seat, I've put a quote from the book behind each seat, and the QR code. And that has been amazing because the ride from Arima to Port of Spain, 2 different towns, is about 20 minutes, and there are stops along the way.
So many people have access to this.
Yeah,
very good.
So just being creative as well.
Yes. And I'm going to ask one more person now. Lucy, what about your book? Have you done any promotional activities?
Well, I think it's very interesting what Jameel said about starting as early as possible, which is something I will certainly do next time for what I'm working on now. But I think anything that can be shared, really, like what we're doing now, it's so valuable. And any recordings, I do like the idea of recording books, not just sending them out in print. Because that's, I think people like to sit and listen sometimes.
Yes, audiobooks.
Yes, audiobooks, exactly.
Right. Patrick, what have you done to promote your book?
I'm really a novice at all this because I was more kicked into touch to promote my to publish my book, and although what Jameel said is like, wow, that's invaluable to me now because you've given me a new monster to create in myself.
Yes, we've learned a lot from
pre-publishing, pre-promotion. I've started my first novel. I wrote the first chapter just about 2 weeks ago, just over 2 weeks ago, and it has got a title. It's called Egypt. This is his story, or this is history, but the way it's got two
Yes,
S's,
a historian.
smaller capital, yeah.
History.
It's about a guy called Egypt. It's a fictional biography, and it starts in 1922, and it takes us right up until 2004.
Okay, so
2004.
now you're going to have to start promoting it and find
I
pictures.
definitely will
interact.
be doing that, because just to finish off quickly, the Three Little Jamaicans, when I was about to publish that, only a month before, I made a little, my first little video blog type of thing. I thought, because I'd kept umming and ahhing over publishing it, I had a friend who'd recently published in lockdown. She kept saying, no, you need to publish it, you need to publish. So I said, okay, I will put myself on the line and make a short video, put it on all my social media saying, I'm going to publish a book at the end of a month. So I knew then I had 30 days and I had to live up to that. Otherwise, there's going to be too many questions that I couldn't answer. So I did publish it on the deadline that I chose. But Jameel's idea, that was great. I will certainly be all over social media now. Yeah, that's constantly.
Okay. And I have 2 minutes left. Maybe Nutendi, you can tell us what promotional activities you do.
So I take an approach similar to Jameel. And I think we've discussed this with Jameel in another conversation, where one of the advantages of advanced promotion is the people get to hear the story behind the story.
Yes.
And they also find out about who you are as a person, what you stand for. Because a lot of that goes into book being successful. People more often than not will buy a book because of the character of the person and why they're doing the book, rather than just the book itself.
Right.
So I try to get out there, engage people, but I am learning to take more and more advantage of social media. So I've been releasing snippets of my upcoming comic as well, just showing the journey of that.
Okay, well, thank you everybody for participating in this wonderful event for World Book and Copyright Day. I sincerely appreciate you being here today. It was great, and I hope we continue again. This is just the start. I would love to work on projects with all of you, and maybe we'll do this again sometime soon. So thank you, I appreciate it, and all the best to all of you. Happy World Book and Copyright Day. Bye-bye, everybody. Take care.